Welcome back to another speed build. Today we're going to be building something that seems really tricky at first, but it isn't actually very difficult to do. We're going to build a houseboat that's on the water on a beach lot so your Sims can actually live out on the ocean. We just need to build a foundation as close to the water as the game will let us, and then we use the Sims 2 builder's favorite tool, columns. Each column we plop down gives us a floor tile, so I'm placing tons of columns to ensure that I have all the floor tiles I need. It's going to be way easier to do it now rather than later. I want to avoid deleting any floor tiles that are on this first floor because if I do, I'm going to have to put a column back down and use the constrained floor elevation sheet again. Then starting from our foundation, we use the constrained floor elevation sheet and we drag all the tiles level so that they line up with our dock. So my idea is our houseboat is docked here awaiting its journey, so we need to build the dock, the houseboat, and also make some cool little food stands or places on the beach for people to hang out. I downloaded these boat hulls of various sizes that you can use to make the base of your houseboat to help really sell the effect. It said to put them on an underground OMSP. I had to try a couple different ones until I found one that worked, but it did snap on and it enabled me to line up the hull as accurately as possible. I had this transparent grid floor that I used in my build from my recent cow plant machinima, and it really came in handy for this build because it allowed me to save those floor tiles but still be able to see what I was doing and visualize the shape of the house. I've really wanted to make a houseboat for a while, and I also wanted to make a Studio Ghibli build, specifically inspired by the films of Hayao Miyazaki, so I decided to combine the two ideas. I wasn't exactly sure what kind of Miyazaki vibe I wanted to go for, but then I remembered that part near the beginning of Spirited Away with the boat that's like ding 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 ding, and that's like my favorite part of the movie, and so I decided to use that as my jumping off point. So we're gonna build a houseboat hotel, like the ferry that transports the spirits to and from the bathhouse or whatever other spirit locations they need to get to. And I also wanted to combine the cozy and sweet Ghibli vibe, so I created a little family kind of inspired by Totoro who run this hotel. When we do the tour at the end, I will do my best to combine Sims 2 with the Miyazaki vibe, and we'll get to learn a bit more about the family that lives here. I really struggled with the roof. I was trying to build these staggered towers on either side and I wanted them to come up higher than the roof, but it wasn't in the cards. You know, the thing where Sims 2 won't let you build any higher, but you plop a dormer down and then it gives you an extra floor? Yeah, apparently on a beach lot, that doesn't happen. So I couldn't build any higher and I struggled around for I don't even know how many hours redoing the roof over and over again. I tried to use the pagoda roofs, but they just sat way too low on the walls and it didn't look good. So I ended up making these low little buildings on the roof. I used constrained floor elevation to make the walls really short. So I ended up with it kind of looking like this, and I used the columns as big like stovepipes or chimneys, smokestacks, that's what it's called. Stovepipes. I'm sure many of you are like me and grew up loving Miyazaki's films. I have so many childhood memories of my whole family and my friends watching them together. I remember my dad coming home from work one day when I was little and he was like, "I saw the most amazing movie today on my lunch break," and it was Princess Mononoke. My dad isn't like an anime fan or anything, he just saw it had good reviews and then it totally blew his mind. I remember he bought an art book of Princess Mononoke from a used bookstore in our town. I loved looking through it when I was a kid. It had all the concept art and storyboards, and he showed my brother and I the movie, but when I was little, my parents were pretty protective over what we watched. And in Princess Mononoke, you know, it's kind of dark sometimes. There are people getting their heads cut off, and so my dad fast forwarded through all those parts. So I loved the movie, but I'd only seen like 2/3 of it, and I did not understand the plot at all. And I didn't see the whole movie till I was in middle school because we watched it in school to learn about feudalism in Japan. And I mean, the movie's amazing, but I'm not sure how much it taught us about feudalism. But this build is of course inspired by the one and only Spirited Away. It kind of ended up looking like the bathhouse, even though I meant it to be more like the ferry, but it's hard to not imitate the bathhouse, it's iconic. I'm using lots of different types of walls next to each other and lots of sort of rusty metal to try to give the boat the appearance of a well-loved and old houseboat that's been renovated many times. And now, of course, we have to add lots of beautiful lanterns. These are from Pineapple Forest Lantern Pack. The ferry in Spirited Away has these lanterns completely covering it, but I only included them on the side facing the shore to help minimize my game exploding in anger. So on the first floor, we have a little lobby with the front desk where people can check in, and then I think we'll just have some bedrooms and bathrooms down here, the guest quarters. And I really tried to use a lot of Maxos items in this build because it's so easy to go overboard downloading Japanese-themed custom content for Sims 2 to get more culturally accurate seating, tables, beds, stuff like that. But I'm trying my best to use what I already have because when it comes to custom content, I have to limit myself because I'm too addicted already. Plus, I already downloaded way too much amazing deco food so I could try to have shots of delicious feasts cooking because Ghibli movies always have the most delicious looking food. I also made use of Buggy Boo's nooks and niches a lot in this build to have lots of nice rustic shelving, and I thought these little cubbies worked perfectly for guests to leave their shoes in. And Pineapple Forest also made these beautiful incense pots that I really love, so I just plopped those down all over the build, everywhere. Oh yeah, and the nice little click noises are back. I forgot to turn the build music off for the first part of recording this video, and so I wasn't able to have the sped up little click noises, but now they have arrived. Moving briefly upstairs, the second floor is going to be the dining and party area where guests hang out while at sea. So up here we'll have a simple bathroom, being sure to include some incense, of course, and some privacy as well. And then back downstairs, I'm going to make the guest rooms, and I'm going to try my best to fit in as many beds as I can in such tiny spaces. And then I'm putting a hot tub in here because even though we aren't making a bathhouse, we gotta at least have one nice bath for our guests to use. And I added a nooks and niches arch over the hot tub, so there's a nice little alcove there. And adding one over here as well. Up on the second floor, this is going to be our little galley kitchen. It's very narrow. I'm sure when playing this lot, my Sims will be screaming at me, but it's a boat. What are you gonna do? Enjoy your 2-tile kitchen. We have lots of guests, so we need lots of wine. And other than that, we're keeping it pretty simple in here, but later on I'll come back and add some custom food and animated effects to help make this look like the perfect cozy kitchen. And down here's a little dock off to the side. I thought would be nice for the family that lives here to use. The grandpa can go fishing and stuff. And I'm putting a ladder to the top floor here. The top floor is just for the family. That's their private residence. And in the dining room, I wanted to have these nice little secluded booth areas, but then also when I went to film the tour, I couldn't get a Sim to sit in them. Like, are the booths not usable unless they get seated from the hostess stance? So I'm not sure. They might need to be switched out for other seats for playability, but I like how they look for now. And then over here we have a nice cozy tea table area as well. And this was my attempt to make a little private bar area with a gate so that only family members could act as the bartender, but it didn't really work. This build fought me at every turn. Then on the front dock, I decided to build a little entryway thing. I thought these columns went really nicely with the house, so I'm using the constrained floor elevation cheat to get these floor tiles to slope down, and then I spent a super long time adding neon lights to it. And I used this trellis to make multiple archways on the dock for people to walk through, kind of like when you're in line at an amusement park or something. I then couldn't resist outlining the whole thing in neon lights, so I added these neon rods on the top and on the sides. And I was able to put one of the top neon lights on a 22-degree shifted left, I believe, OMSP, so it would angle down with the floor tile. It doesn't match up perfectly, but I like that because it makes it look more homemade. And then I was like, gosh, I don't want to not use anything cool that's in the game because I forgot about it, so I dumped like all the Far East collection stuff all over the beach, and then I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this giant gate already exists in the game, which of course I located after spending an hour making my own gate. Ay. I added these roof decorations, and then I decided to use the windmills on the roof to look like the ship's I don't know, power source, I guess? It wouldn't be a Ghibli vibe without some random machinery, windmills, steam, and pipes everywhere, so I added tons of pipes, and again, that transparent floor tile really helped me out so that I could line them up perfectly. And on that note, I was like, things that spin, ceiling fans, things that make heat, radiators. I was on a real machinery kick. and down here I'm just adding a tiny bathroom near the hotel rooms. On these columns, I put the fire explodey thing to have a big grand entrance, but later when filming, I realized I needed to move them because they're too close to the gate and they lit my beautiful neon lights on fire and it was a disaster. Then this was a decision I ended up being really happy about. I originally had these really low windows here, but you could see the panes are messed up because the walls are so low. It was bugging me that the glass wouldn't reliably show, so then I got the idea to use the air vents instead. I really like the effect of the air vents with the neon lights. It gives the illusion of all this extra space and activity up here with these nice illuminated fake windows. Next up, we're building the family's little apartment. Definitely for this part, I was inspired by Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service and the more cozy Miyazaki films. When I was a kid, Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service were my favorite movies. I still love Totoro, but I can only stand the original or the 20th Century Fox dub from the 80s. There's that Disney one now with the Fanning sisters, and I'm not gonna lie, I can't watch it because I hate how they're always like, gotta see Totoro, we're gonna go see Totoro. The 80s dub is a hot mess. They're always just like screaming and elongating everything so the words fit the mouths like, how are you? But that's the one I have nostalgia for. I tried to build a nice little family apartment that's decorated with all their souvenirs from their travels on their boat all over the world. And I quit the game and found this really gorgeous wall set, so those are what I'm using now for many of the walls in the house. And on Mod The Sims, I found this tatami floor, and on the download page there was a little design guide for how you can try to lay out tatami floors, so I'm trying to imitate the shape as best as I can. Downstairs, I put tatami in the guest rooms as well, but they don't get the design because a side effect of building over the ocean, I guess, is on the first floor you can only shift-click to fill a room with one kind of flooring. Oh, and this is my last minute attempt at like, dang, I want a boiler room, like in Spirited Away. So yeah, I nailed it. 2 rusty stoves and a bunch of pipes. And I wanted the stove chimneys to be inside because it just looked cooler to me, but I didn't realize until later that when they're lit, they just billow smoke into the kids' room upstairs. So please don't tell the city. It's definitely not up to code in here. Organizing the rooms up here was a bit of a struggle, and typical me, I made 2 giant bathrooms. Why did I do that? I could have used the space better, probably. A childhood of trauma from watching my Sims fight over the bathroom and pee everywhere and scream at me has made me very cautious and build way more bathrooms than necessary, I guess. I could only fit 3 chairs in the kitchen, unfortunately, but at least there's some nice seating outside to help make up for the lack of seating in there. Also, I broke my rule about no more lanterns on the side of the boat and I added some more. Then down in the party area, I decided to trade one of the tea tables out for the karaoke machine. And I know the angles of the guest rooms are very treacherous and evil looking, but my excuse for the insane floor plan is I'm imagining them as screens, and based on the amount of guests there are, the owners can rearrange the rooms and the number of beds to best accommodate people. So now we're just doing a little bit of simple landscaping in the front, and I had fun terrain painting this lot. I really like terrain painting, but when blending sands, it drives me crazy how there's always that ring of grass around the edge, so I really tried my best to blend them without too much green grass showing. And then here in the front, I'm going to put the little blessing shrine from Bon Voyage so guests about to board can try their luck, flip a coin, and be like, dang, I hope this boat doesn't sink. And then now here on the beach, I want to make little food stalls, like at the beginning of Spirited Away, make some nice enticing stalls piled high with exotic meats and delicious food for the spirits. Don't eat it. I also made sure that the stalls are the same size as the Bon Voyage food stands, so if you wanted to run this as a community lot, you could download an invisible recolor of one of the food stands, plop it here, and I think it should hopefully work. I'm just using a half wall and the constrained floor elevation cheat to lower the sides of the floor to create a little roof effect. And this is also how I made the food stalls and the Tunnel of Love in my circuits build, if you ever wondered how I did that. For the next one, I built it the same way, but used the stage tool on the top instead of the half wall just to switch up the look a bit. Now, in front of the food stands, I'm just pressing Ctrl F while using the floor tool, which is how you can place floor tiles 1 triangle at a time. And I'm doing this to try to make the pavement look old and broken up. And then over on this side, we'll just have a little bathroom so people don't have to go all the way onto the boat. And then I thought it would be cool to put these sculptures here like they're peeking out. It kind of reminded me of the shadowy spirits inside the food stands in Spirited Away, and I thought it made a kind of nice effect, kind of spooky. And now we are just finishing up our landscaping. And I remembered I have a terrain paint that is these lovely river rocks from, I think it's from Sims 3. So I blended that all over the top of the terrain paint, and I thought it was cool and added a Spirited Away element because there's that big river she can't cross to get back to the human world. So it ended up being kind of fitting. And the way I'm able to have such a light hand when terrain painting is because I like to use my drawing tablet when I build. And it's the only way to click the terrain paint tool with such little pressure. With a mouse, it's impossible in my experience because one click puts the paint down at full opacity. So now we are just making our OMSPs invisible, and I finally feel brave enough to get rid of all my extra transparent floor tiles, so I won't be needing them anymore. And so this is the final low CC version of the lot that I'm uploading to share with all you guys, but let's keep it going and add a ton of custom content. And I'm really sad to report that I lost over an hour of footage from this part of the build. It just didn't save. So there's some sections of clutter that we missed out on, but I think hopefully it'll make the tour that much more of a fun surprise. So I'm just adding some more details to the apartment bedrooms upstairs, and down here let's store some cozy blankets on these shelves. I vividly remember thinking the closets full of bedding in Totoro looked so amazing, and I always wish I could hang out in one when I was a kid. Of course, we need tons and tons of food, and here I'm adding some ventilation fans and then lots of interesting herbs and ingredients to add to dishes and cocktails. Then down on the shore, I'm putting tons of hanging meats in the food stand, and I apologize because I usually like to include finicky stuff like this in my builds, but I hadn't downloaded this set yet. But it's pretty easy if you want to do it yourself. I just put the meat on 90-degree OMSPs, and then I used the lantern rope from Pineapple Forest Lantern set as what they're hanging on. And now I'm so excited to show you guys the tour of the house in the form of a little movie, My Sims 2 homage to Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. I really hope you like it, and if you've enjoyed this video so far, I'd love if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, or leave me a comment with your favorite Studio Ghibli movie. There's a download link for this lot, as well as a link to a Pinterest board with all the CC used in this video in the description box as well. Enjoy! Dear Michiko, I hope you're having a nice summer. My summer has been eventful so far. My mother sent May and I to stay with our grandparents on their houseboat, but we sure were surprised when we showed up. The word houseboat doesn't really capture it. We've never known our grandparents. They're very busy people. Their boat is a giant floating hotel, and they sail all over the world, so they're always traveling. Their house is so big, May and I even have our own rooms. She loves having a room all to herself, although she doesn't keep it as neat as she should. Sometimes we get to have breakfast with our grandparents and spend time together on slow days. They're full of amazing stories from all their adventures. I've also been learning to paint, so I'm gonna have plenty of gifts for our friends when we come back to school. Hope you guys like paintings of boats. May loves fishing with our grandfather, although luckily we don't rely on his fishing skills to eat. May says she's gonna catch a fish herself by the end of the summer. It isn't all relaxation though, not at all. Running a hotel on the water is a lot of work. As soon as something's fixed, something else decides to break. May and I have to help cook and clean and wait on the guests. Speaking of the guests, they're some of the strangest people you'd ever meet. May and I were shocked the first time we saw them lined up to come aboard. never met anyone like them before. The days are kind of boring. The guests don't like to come out of their rooms. But when it gets dark, they emerge. They love to drink and sing, and they're always eating. Sometimes it feels like grandmother cooks all day to prepare for dinner. Plus, when they're done with dinner, then they want snacks. And when night falls, all these little vendors on the beach appear. They're selling loads of exotic meats and fish, vegetables, and fruit I've never seen. I can hear them frying food from up in my room. It all smells so good, but my grandparents say May and I aren't supposed to go down there. Sometimes there are foggy days. Out on the water, you feel completely alone. It's so peaceful and eerie. May was afraid of thunder at the beginning of the summer, but she's gotten used to it by now. Foggy and rainy nights always bring out the strangest guests, too. Sometimes they seem scary at first, but I've learned not to judge someone without getting to know them a bit more. Living on the boat has been so much fun, and I really will miss it when summer is over. Well, I won't miss all the chores. May and I actually have a secret place we go sometimes when we don't feel like working, but don't tell my grandma. The nights are so dark out here, you can see every single star in the sky. Although I'll be sad to leave, I do miss school and all of our friends. How has your summer been? I'd love if you wrote me back, but I'm not sure if I'll receive it. It's hard to get letters out at sea. see you real soon, and we can talk all about it. Love, your friend, Sophie.